Hello and welcome to Valuechain News. I am Naomi Oleribe. First, the headlines. Ministerial regulations catalyst to 70% Nigerian content target. Wabote. Ipman assures of continuous sales of premium motor spirits at 165 naira per litre. NCDMB, NICOM present insurance service guidelines to oil and gas stakeholders. And now, the news in detail. The Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, Engineer Simbi Wabote, has stated that the 7 ministerial regulations approved by the Ministry of Petroleum Resources will provide legal binding for the various aspects of the Nigerian content practice not fully detailed in the NOGICD Act 2010. He made this known on Monday in his opening speech at the ongoing Nigerian Oil and Gas Conference holding in Abuja. Wabote emphasized that it is important for these regulations to be put in place as it would guide the activities in the oil and gas sector.
This year's edition of the Nigerian Content Seminar will focus on the 7 ministerial regulations officially gazetted by the federal government last year and how they could be utilized to strengthen the practice of Nigerian content.
The conference themed Strengthening Nigerian Content Implementation with the 7 ministerial regulations highlighted some of the regulations. Wabote stated that the second regulation, which touches on further growth in indigenous capacity 2021, was important because it sends out targets for full utilization and sterling growth of indigenous companies engaged in exploration and encourages capacity development initiative as a tool for indigenous capacity.
Regulation number 2 on further growth of indigenous capacity 2021. This regulation sets out targets to ensure full utilization and steady growth of indigenous companies engaged in exploration, seismic data processing, reservoir studies, and other facilities. It reinforces the principle of first consideration for Nigerian-made goods and services. This regulation also details compliance with your management and the development of capacity development initiatives as a tool for the growth of indigenous capacity.
The Executive Secretary reiterated that the regulations would also enable the NCDMB enhance the large delivery of 70% Nigerian content target by the year 2027. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, has pledged to continue to sell petrol at the regulated price of 165 naira per litre at retail stations. Southwest top executive of the association made the pledge when they paid a courtesy visit to the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority (NMDPRA) in Abuja. In his opening remarks, the authority's chief executive, NMDPRA Engineer Farouk Ahmed, welcomed the officials and assured them of the authority's support in their business of distributing petroleum products to all nooks and crannies in the country. He expressed concern about the rise in petroleum products theft and pipeline vandalism, especially the Line 2B, which services Mosime, Ibadan, and Ilorin depots, leading to revenue losses for the government. He urged IPMAN to assist in checkmating the unscrupulous act as they have done in the past, while revealing that the authority had received complaints of private petroleum depots selling petrol above the approved price, thereby disrupting the entire value chain, leading to higher pricing in some areas. He called on the association to report any depot selling products to its members above the approved ex-depot prices. Responding, the zonal chairman IPMAN Southwest, Alhaji Dele Tajuddin, said the purpose of the visit was to seek collaboration and support the authority in line with the Petroleum Industry Act PIA 2021. The zonal chairman also highlighted some of the problems his members were facing, to include product sharing, rise in penalties, difficulty in getting tax clearance, high cost of doing business in the country, amongst others. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board (NCDMB) and the National Insurance Commission (NICOM) on Monday presented insurance services guidelines to stakeholders in the oil and gas industry. Presenting the guidelines, the Executive Secretary (NCDMB), Engineer Simbi Wabote, and Commissioner for Insurance (NICOM), Mr. Sunday Thomas, at the 2022 Nigerian Oil and Gas Conference (NOG) in Abuja, said the documents will oblige the oil and gas industry to patronize the local insurance sector, thereby retain spend in the economy. Wabote said that the provisions of Section 49 and 50 of the NOGICD Act require all operators engaged in any form of activity in the sector to insure all insurable risks related to his business with an insurance company through an insurance broker registered in Nigeria. The insurance guidelines was developed by the two regulatory bodies to ensure that government's intention of promoting insurance services within the country is achieved so as to capture significant financial spend under oil and gas insurance services in the country, he said. A group of senior officials from Chad's oil and banking sectors have been arrested over the past 10 days as part of an investigation into embezzlement at the National Oil Company, the government said on Sunday. The embezzlement of nearly 20 million euros within the Chadian Oil Company and the National Security Agency, the Internal and External Intelligence Services, is conducting the investigation, said the Minister of Communication and Government spokesman. The Central African country joined the circle of African oil producing and exporting countries in the early 2020s, and its economy is now very dependent on it. It remains a modest producer with 47 million barrels in 2021. Many people have been arrested and some have been released as part of the investigation into financial misappropriation of nearly 20 million euros, the spokesman said. The case is currently being handled by the judiciary and some of the defendants will eventually be presented to a judge at the end of preliminary investigation, the spokesman added, without giving any details of the charges. Russian gas producer Gazprom has proposed expanding its ruble for gas scheme for pipeline gas to include liquefied natural gas (LNG), the Interfax news agency quoted a senior manager as saying on Monday. The proposal from Kirill Polos, a deputy departmental head at Gazprom, comes after Russia moved to cease operations of the Sakhalin-2 LNG plant last week in retaliation for Western sanctions. That order, signed by Russian President Vladimir Putin, creates a new firm that will take over all rights and obligations of Sakhalin energy investments. Russia accounts for around 8% of global LNG supply, with 40 billion cubic meters of supercooled gas per year coming mainly from Sakhalin-2 and Novatek's Yamal LNG, Russia's largest LNG plant. In March, Putin said the world's largest natural gas producer would require countries he termed unfriendly to pay for piped gas in rubles. A number of Gazprom's biggest clients in Europe were cut off after refusing to abide by the new rule. Thank you. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has released a new framework to check cybersecurity in other financial institutions, OFIs. This is contained in a statement issued by the Director, OFIs, CBN, Nkiru Asiegbu. Asiegbu said that the framework was informed by the recent increase in the number and sophistication of cybersecurity threats against financial institutions, especially the OFIs. It has become mandatory for institutions to strengthen their cyber defenses and remain safe and sound, Asiegbu said. Before we end the news, here's a recap of our headlines. Ministerial regulations catalyst to 70% Nigerian content target, Wabote. Ipman assures of continuous sales of premium motor spirits at 165 naira per litre. NCDMB, NICOM present insurance service guidelines to oil and gas stakeholders. And that's the news. I am Naomi Oleribe. Good evening.